Hello again and welcome back to another video. Today I've got another value or budget friendly single lens reflex camera, 35mm film again. Great camera for beginners, this one. You really got to be looking at the sort of the C or the D level cameras to see where the bargains are. The sort of the main name brand cameras is quite difficult to get anything that's at a reasonable price now, with the recent price rises in film photography equipment. Generally prices are rising. We're not even really hitting the spring yet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens later on in the year. But this is a Cosina branded CT1 Super. So this is a slightly updated version of the CT1, which was launched 1979-1980. I think this came out 82-83. Main changes being that it gets this moulded grip on the side, makes the camera more comfortable to use. Other than that, it doesn't hold batteries or anything. And an increase in the shutter speed. You'll notice that this one goes up to a 2,000th of a second, as opposed to the CT1, which only went to only a 1,000th of a second. Flash sync's 125th of a second, which sort of indicates that it's got the metal vertical copal shutter inside of it. It's rather a plain, unassuming camera. It's got quite an interesting story to it, because this camera went on to spawn a whole host of other cameras made by Cosina for some of the big name brands. For example, Nikon, the FG10 is this camera with a Nikon mount and a Nikon badge, but it's basically the same. The button layouts are the same, the chassis are the same. They were made by Cosina. The Olympus OM2000 is another example of this chassis being used. Put an Olympus OM mount on it, and the layout is exactly the same. A lot of OM people, myself included, don't really count that as being an OM series camera. The shutter speed dial on OMs was always around the throat. It was never up on the top body like this. The interesting thing is you could also take the mirror box out, do away with the pentaprism, so it wasn't an SLR anymore, and make it into a rangefinder. Voigtlander is one that springs to mind. The Voigtlander Bessers, basically the same camera without the mirror box and the prism. And the layout on the top is exactly the same. So, in fact, this camera was still manufactured as the Nikon FG10 up until 2017. And the reason production ceased, I think, is because 2016 Cobalt stopped making the shutters, so they couldn't get the shutters anymore. But I think this would probably be the basis of any new film camera that was to come along. If somebody went to Cosina and said, we want to make a film camera again, this would be the chassis that they'd probably use. So 38-year lifespan is quite impressive. But anyway, this is the Cosina, an often overlooked brand, but they make the Voigtlander stuff, so the quality's pretty much there. They're more known really for their lenses than for camera bodies, but yeah, quite plasticky. It's got a metal chassis, but everything else around it seems to be pretty plasticky. It's fairly lightweight, but it's quite chunky, and it is quite well built. It feels quite comfortable in the hands, and this inclusion of the grip does make it seem a bit more comfortable to use. It is a manual shutter, so you don't need any batteries for it, which is one of the good things about it. Dead batteries, you haven't got a dead camera. All you lose is the metering. And the metering is manual. In the viewfinder there's 3 LEDs in this side, a red plus, a red minus, and a green one in the middle. So it's very, very simple to use. It is open aperture metering, and it features the Pentax K mount. The manual focus version has no electrical contacts or AF drive or anything in it. It's not an autofocus camera. But yeah, it's Pentax K mount, so there's plenty of lenses to fit. This one's actually wearing, I don't know if you noticed, it's wearing a Nikon, so a Ricoh lens on it, which is a bit strange, but there you go. But yeah, Pentax K lenses, manual focus, and there's plenty of those kicking about. On the front here we've got a self timer. I'm assuming that do with a clean when you look at it closer. There you go. Self timer. Does have a shutter lock, which is the on this frame advance lever, film advance lever. There's a little bracket that just sits underneath the shutter button. You can just about see it there, and that stops you from pressing the shutter release. So you've got to pull it out slightly. Half press on the shutter activates the meter. You can't really see much in that corner, but yeah, it is there. I haven't mastered looking through the viewfinders yet. A frame counter on top, short flow frame advance, shutter speed dial. The meter is connected to both, so you don't have to do any settings. You can adjust these while you're there. And usually for a mechanical camera this turns all the way around. It's kind of interesting, but yeah, 2000 top speed, which is quite nice. Hot shoe on the top. There's no PC connector, but it's quite easy to get around that. You can buy these little adapters. I use this on quite a few cameras. So it's got a hot shoe mount on the bottom. It gives you a cold shoe on the top, but it does give you a connector. So you put this on your hot shoe, and then you can plug your flash cables into that. That's the way you can work around that. So it's not a particularly big issue. On this side, we have the ISO, and we go from 1600 down to 25, and it's the usual lift and twist. Film rewind crank, pull up to release the back, and in the back we can see that vertical travelling copal metal shutter. Usual arrangements, sprocket drive. If you've seen any other 35mm camera, these all look very similar. Multi-slotted take-up spool. Film goes in this side. Pressure plate on the back. Very standard. No winder available. Got a battery compartment, a tripod socket, and the usual push to rewind button on the bottom. So very conventional. Nothing particularly exciting, but as a starter camera or an economically very, very cheap camera, these are very overlooked, and they're more affordable to pick up now. Actually, I don't think you do lift up, I think you just turn it. There's no lift up collar on it, so yeah, it's very simple. You just set it to what you want to put in there, and away you go. I think this one we are going to put some another roll of this, again, affordable. I don't like the word cheap, it sounds a bit stingy. Foam-pan 100 in a 36 exposure. You just take the end off. There's your roll of film. There's your leader. You just open the back, pulling up. You drop your film into this side, like so. You pull it across. You just feed it into these sprockets, make sure it's lined up with those ones, and advance the film. You can see it's starting to get taken up. It's come off. And then me and film loading, just the same as batteries. Half the time I can't even see what I'm doing. Trouble with getting old. There you go, you can see it's picking it up. Close the back, finish that advance, take up the slack. And away we go, hopefully, he says. It's quite stiff actually now. I think that film's knackered. It's only a test roll, so it doesn't really matter. But it is advancing. 40 years of loading cameras with films and you still can't get it right. That's better. There you go. one-shot videos. These I don't edit them. I don't add sound or anything fancy to them. See, it's got some starts, and you can just, it's usually three advances to get to the start of the film. I keep forgetting, a bit like a Nikon. Nikons, you pull that out to turn them on this one you pull that out. You can see the little lever there. It's very simple lock, it just sits underneath the shutter button. Beautifully simple design. And to mount the lens, the usual red dot to red dot. Twist it clockwise. Aperture ring on there. This is a Ricoh lens. It'll work fine. Actually quite smooth. Very short focus on it as well. Throw. Lens release buttons down the bottom there. The only thing that's missing really is a depth of field preview, but yeah, that's about the only thing I can see that's missing. Like I say, the lack of PC connector is not an issue. But yeah, for £20, probably £20 with a lens, it's a great introduction and a lot better value than, say, an AE1 or a K1000. So there you go, folks. It's the budget camera for today. Yeah, it's got rangefinder, split image in the middle, microprism focusing aids. So yeah, it's quite well specified. I quite like it, actually. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Comments, questions, queries down below. It's always nice to read your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and all that usual sort of stuff for the YouTube algorithm. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.